with our buddy Charlie Dickey. Let's do a little reading first. Evie's notebook. Oh yeah, this is based on the memory that we just did. Dr. Elliotson is dead, and with it goes the production of Stark's soothing Sibber, the patent medicine of choice in London. Jacob is justifiably proud of the end of one of Charles Crawford Stark's principal revenue streams, not to mention the death of one of his chief supporters. Unfortunately for us, that was not the end of the story. I visited Lambeth to find that things had not settled as we had hoped they would. Instead, in the absence of the syrup, people were turning to other tonics, some of them little more than tinted water, others with less savory ingredients. Meanwhile, real medicine, was being stolen and sold to the highest bidder. Clara O'Day and several of her children fell ill and might not have pulled through but for my intervention and the care of Miss Florence Nightingale. Bringing a cure to Clara and a cure to the borough at large are two very different things, so further action is required. Mr. Green assisted me in rooting out the thieves hoarding medical supplies. Jacob was nowhere to be found. I have reported out some of the culprits to Mr. Aberline for the police to deal with. The rest we have seen to ourselves. I have also put some of the assassin's money toward Miss Nightingale's efforts to create better sanitation regulations, which she assures me will help stall the spread of the disease, better than any tonic, however effective. I have no small delight in being able to count the famed Lady of the Lamp as an acquaintance, although our first meeting was under unpleasant circumstances. Oh, that's nice. Okay. And even though we did entry 4 before entry 3 somehow, because the game lets you do that, which is fun. I like that. It's just about which one you feel like doing first. But yes, we accidentally did 4 before 3. So yeah. So it was only after this that we did that mission where she finds the necklace and goes to Kenway's house and all that. Oops. I think I'm going to crash into something when I stop reading, but that's fine. So when I have 5 pieces of assassin intel, that's when I want to read that, possibly. And I can read all 5 in a row. Miscellaneous items, the Shroud of Eden. Yeah, let's even learn about the Shroud of Eden. It seems to be an important focus on this game. The first civilization created many strange and powerful objects, which we refer to as pieces of Eden. We've discovered apples, strange spheres that can manipulate minds, powerful swords and staves, as well as some other objects that are a little bit less impressive. But perhaps one of the strangest ones has to be the Shroud of Eden. Civilians know the object as the Shroud of Turin, which some allege is the burial ground of Shroud of Jesus of Nazareth. On the surface, it's a white linen cloth stained with blood, with the imprint of a man who appears to have been crucified. What we know about this object has been pieced together from various sources: genetic memories stolen from Abstergo's project legacy by the hacker collective known as Erudito, and the semi-coherent ramblings of the assassin Clay Kazmarek, who was driven insane by prolonged exposure to the Animus. It apparently has the ability to heal severe injuries, but we don't know how. It has ties to a precursor named Consus, but we've not been able to dig up anything more about him. What about Kazmarek? Right. It's hard to read, isn't it? Oh yeah, he was driven insane by the Animus. Early reports of the artifact are hidden within myths and legends. The Golden Fleece of Jason and the Argonauts, Joseph's famous multicolored coat, and it allegedly helped David fell Goliath. Yet its most famous owner is undoubtedly celebrity carpenter Jesus, whose resurrection was apparently facilitated by the Shroud. I'm not touching that one. It bears mentioning that other than Jesus, or Jesus, as he likes to call himself, there are no reports of any. It's not funny. There are no reports of any piece of Eden capable of bringing back the dead, and until I see it for myself in the Animus, or otherwise, I remain a complete skeptic. To me, it's just a fancy napkin. Dead is dead, no matter how much I might wish otherwise. What about what we've been listening to, the reports? The object's been stolen back and forth between the Assassins and Templars over the centuries. Last report was that the Templars had managed to acquire it in the 1940s and have it stored away. Being the ever-imaginatively sort, they refer to it as Piece of Eden number 66. Although it might not be the sexiest piece of Eden out there, it's certainly not a laser sword or a mind-control ball or a hover spoon. I've always been curious to know more about the Shroud. I'm glad to know there's at least one more of them out there. I hope we get to it first. Alright. I think we can probably find... Well, let's read about Florence Nightingale. And we'll stop after that. Date of birth, May 12th, 1820. Florence Nightingale was driven by her faith and her convictions from a young age. She knew she wanted to become a nurse when she was a little girl, but her parents disapproved of the idea, seeing it as below their upper-class station. Nightingale would tell her associates that she received a message from God and that she was 17... when she was 17, telling her to become a nurse. That guy can be pretty specific. Now, I don't want to put down someone who did a whole lot of good for people, but that just seems a little convenient, doesn't it? What would have happened if God told her to be a plumber instead? I don't know, Sean. Anyway, Nightingale trained herself to become a nurse, and when Britain entered the Crimean War began in 1854, she found work on the front lines. A lot of work. With a staff of 38 volunteer nurses and 15 nuns that she personally assembled, Nightingale was both disciplined and organized in administering care to injured soldiers. I apologize, this is starting to read like a bad CV. The point is, she was very good at her job and recognized that nurses needed to be better trained at home before being sent into battle. Nightingale returned home in 1855, established a Nightingale Fund aimed at training nurses while the war raged on. In 1859, she published Notes on Nursing, which became the standard text used to train nurses, and founded the Nightingale Training School in St. Thomas Hospital the following year. The rest of her life was dedicated to advocating for women's rights, and especially better sanitation in London and India, discovering the role hygiene played in healthcare. Florence Nightingale died in her sleep on the 13th of August, 1910. She was 90 years old. While she left a great legacy behind, scholars these days are quick to point out that for all of her advocacy for women's rights, she opposed the idea of women working as physicians, or even having the right to vote. The hell, Flo? The hell, Flo? Sean cracks me up. Alright. Yeah, well, we're here, aren't we? I think I'll play this out as Evie, most likely. The Terror of London. And I'll save the video clip, and we'll start a new one.